And welcome to Environmental Impact of Tourism. This is the lecture for Module 2. And although the environmental impact of tourism includes many different things, the focus of this lecture is going to be on what I like to call the trashy problem. And we're going to be focusing specifically on how tourism contributes to the plastic pollution problem. Plastic pollution is one of the major environmental challenges of our time, and tourism has an important role to play in contributing to the solution. So let's first look at a video, and I want you to pay attention to why plastic has become and trash has become such a problem in relations to travel.
Tourism is big business. If we take a look at the numbers, a lot more people are traveling now. There are about 1.4 billion international arrivals a year. That number was only 25 million less than 70 years ago. Tourism can be great for a local economy, but what it leaves in its wake can be, well, trashy.
No matter where you go, no matter what remote area, they have the same problem. What do you do with human waste? What do you do with solid waste?
Alton Byers has been visiting Everest every year for the last 40 years and is working to develop waste management strategies in the villages near Everest. Tourists end up producing 4.8 million tons of trash per year, and 14% of that is solid waste. And it's the big sites with the biggest problems. Mount Everest, Machu Picchu, Stonehenge are all struggling with an increase of trash left behind.
I think you have to think about it as you're going to someone else's home. What would you do in your own home? And would you do the same thing in someone else's home?
The island of Boracay in the Philippines, the base camp at Everest in China, are some of the sites that have had to shut their doors to tourists to take care of the pileup of trash. But why is the pileup of trash growing?
Tourism is now super accessible. Even 10, 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't necessarily that easy or affordable to just hop on a plane and go somewhere. So now suddenly everyone can. And so I think in addition to that, when you have your bit more of that disposable society approach, where it's just as easy you get a water bottle and just toss it on the side when you're done.
So what is being done about the trash that continues to pile up at tourist sites around the world?
The tourist needs to have their awareness increase and they need to do their part, okay? Lodges need to see that this, well, I think they know that this is unsustainable. What's going on? The practice is not sustainable. They need to start developing recycling technologies if they're realistically going to address the problem. So everybody is a player in this.
That includes restaurants and hotels at tourist landmarks.
We work a lot at the foundation on circular economy approaches, and part of that is, how do you not just transform the consumption side, but also the production side? So do we need to have the plastic straws and the plastic cups and the disposable everything in our tourist areas, in our hotels, in our visiting centers?
Byers and Boutois both tapped into a similar solution to tackle the growing pile of trash at tourist sites around the world, and that is to be more mindful, raise our awareness as tourists, tour companies, accommodation providers, and eliminate trash together as a global community.
Okay, so as you can see, this is a problem that isn't just about the tourist, it's about all those involved in the travel industry or the tourist industry. And so I wanted to share with you a couple of websites. These are embedded into the slideshow that you have available to you within the module. So I'm going to quickly go over a couple of the things on these websites, but please feel free to go back to the slideshow and click on these links so that you can get as much information as you need. And so first, we're going to be looking at the plastic problem. And this website is from the United Nations, and it talks specifically about our planet and how it's drowning in the plastic pollution. Not only that it's drowning, but the reasons for it. Plastic has become, a valuable tool in many different ways, but we have, in a way, become addicted to single-use disposable plastics, and this has become devastating to the environment. Around the world, 1 million plastic drinkers, plastic drinking bottles are purchased every minute, while up to 5 trillion single-use plastic bags are used worldwide every year. In a total, half of all plastic produced is designed to be used only once. And so this is mainly the biggest issue when it comes to the plastic problem, is these one-time use plastics. And so as you go through this website and you explore, what the trends have been as far as plastics, you can see how the website shows more and more plastic. And what is the prediction as far as pollution and the causes of the major plastic problem? We need to slow the flow of plastics at its source, and so we need to do this together. We can't just do this individually. We have a responsibility in our industry to help with this situation, and so we're going to be discussing some ways that we can do that. But I would like you guys to go back to this website and read further. The other website I'd like to share with you is just litter in general. This is part of the trashy problem, and you can again explore this website as well. And this gives you all kinds of information showing where plastic is the plastic problem of trash is distributed around the world, and you can see most of the locations of the deposits of plastic trash is going to be on coastal areas in the world. So you don't see many of it on the internal parts of countries, but more so on the areas near the coast, and specifically how it gets into water systems, whether that be rivers or the oceans. And so you can look at the map here and see specifically where trash has become the biggest issue. And that's what I like most about this. You can look at information on this website as far as just the analysis of, the marine litter, for example, and you can see how plastic is the major reason why there's so much trash in the ocean. In fact, by 2050, the United Nations predicts that there will be actually more plastic in the oceans than fish, which is a pretty devastating statistic. And so when looking forward, and we look at just the problems with plastic in general, we can look at each year an additional 8 million tons of plastic end up in the world's oceans, where it is responsible for the deaths of up to 1 million seabirds, 100,000 sea mammals, marine turtles, and countless fish. And so that's why we hear phrases such as "save the turtles," or not using single-use plastic straws and plastic cups and plastic water bottles, because those items will end up in the oceans. With 80% of all tourism taking place in coastal areas, that's why plastic from the tourist industry has become such a large contributor to this problem. A lot of people like to vacation at the beach, and when doing so, that's why a lot of the plastic ends up in the oceans. And then peak tourism seasons, marine litter in the Mediterranean region specifically was found to increase by up to 40%. So we can see that not only is this a problem in coastal areas, but just using the Mediterranean as a case study, when the season reaches its peak, usually in the spring and in the summer, we can see that litter and the trashy problem becomes even worse. Inland and urban tourism can also contribute to marine plastic pollution, because huge amounts of plastic end up in rivers, and those rivers eventually get carried out to the oceans. And so that's why it's important to look at the plastic problem, not just on the coasts, but also in urban areas as well, because that's where it ends up. And this is another graphic that shows the plastic problem and how plastic pollution is one of the major environmental challenges. And tourism has an important role playing and a contributing factor to the solution. Much of the plastic used in tourism is made to be thrown away because it's easy, it's cheap, and oftentimes, unfortunately, it can't be recycled, and that's what leads to a large amount of pollution. And with tourism taking 80% of it taking place in coastal areas, as mentioned before, this is why it's such a problem in the ocean. So it's time for tourism to take on plastic pollution. And again, this can't just come from the tourists themselves, but tourist companies and destinations. They all have been making some strides towards reducing their environmental impact, but there's still a lot to be done. The problem of plastic pollution in tourism is too big for any single organization to fix. So to match the scale of the problem, changes need to take place across the whole tourism value chain. And that's what we really need to pay attention to. It involves, the whole global community, especially, in regards to travelers, in regards to businesses and hotels and restaurants, all working together and taking, a systemic approach to the Global Tourism Plastic Initiative. And so these are going to be some recommendations for the private sector. They involved in pillars. Pillar 1 is to empower. Pillar 2 is to safeguard. Pillar 3 is to prosper, and Pillar 4 is to collaborate. So as you look at each of these pillars, it really involves in the first pillar designing community-based products and services according to demand. It involves mentoring and coaching and training communities, and to improve like supply chains, even involving women and youth and minorities to be examples and to stimulate more independence. The more educated people are, the more skills they will have in helping with this problem, and engaging in communities and equitable business and collaboration models. Pillar 2, investing in infrastructure, measuring emissions and consumption levels of other resources, working with communities to ensure, the assessment of prior carrying capacities, ensuring operations are socially and economically responsible and do not lead to any form of exploitation, promote responsible travel among clients and employees. And then Pillar 3, opportunities for community members, especially youth and women, to understand, the distribution of plastics and trash, and to accelerate innovation and digitalization of local tourism and ecosystems, and how to work with the public sector and communities to create a market intelligence system. And then finally, Pillar 4 is working with local authorities and community organizations, and looking at how, we can work together to assist communities to access, ways to setting up their priority support facilitators, etc. One of the things that you can do is join the Global Tourism Plastic Initiative, and this is more for businesses that are interested in being part of the solution. And so you can join the Global Plastic Tourism Initiative, and all you'd have to do really is look at who can get involved and how to get involved. And so if you click on the get involved part, you can become a member of the One Planet Sustainable Tourism Program, and it tells you here of what you can do, and you can complete the application in order to do so. So this is really one of the steps you can take to get involved in the plastic problem initiative. And this is a link to just show what alternatives there are to the plastic bottle use, for example. This is something that can be encouraged by travel companies, encouraging travelers, instead of bringing nothing with them, either bringing a hydro flask or some other type of reusable bottle to fill water. And then in places where the water isn't exactly ideal, you can bring things like this, the ultra, you know, pen that basically helps to purify water. And that can be an alternative to using plastics when traveling. And so, um, if you go back to World War II, and this was mentioned before when we were talking about our responsibility post COVID, but if you look back to World War II in July 1944, there was the Bretton Woods Conference, whose purpose was to think about the world order after the war ended. Now it's the time to think about when we enter the recovery phase post COVID and how we can cooperate internationally and the green agenda should be part of that. And this is from the a chief economist, Beta Jorvik, stated this, and she's part of the European board. And so, really, what I would like you guys to do is continue on with this particular module. You're going to be doing some reading, you're going to be answering some questions, and you'll be creating some ideas of what you can do in your field to help with the plastic problem. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you again soon.